Today, I'm excited to be joined by one of my inner circle members, Crisyn Braines. Crisyn is a director of Incognito Systems, a company that specialises in CCTV and security for the domestic, commercial and rural sectors. Now, Crisyn has experienced some incredible growth results, in particular his profit margins, because his profit margins have skyrocketed by 1,100%. Yeah, you heard me right, 1,100%. Sounds great, right? But behind the scenes, Crisyn has made some terrible, terrible mistakes. Mistakes in his business that I'm sure that I'm guessing probably 90% of people watching and listening to this episode are making in their trades and construction business. And this all comes down to cash and finance. Because Crisyn, as he's been growing his business, has never fully understood the numbers in his business. Basic numbers like gross and net profit margins, overhead contributions, hourly rates, balance sheets, profit and loss. He's never had a grip of these numbers. And let's face it, the vast majority of people running their trades and construction businesses are winging it with the numbers exactly the same as what Crisyn was doing. Now, Crisyn joined my inner circle, and there was one session, 1 month in particular, that has changed the whole game and changed Crisyn's life. And that is the cash and finance month that we sat. Because at the end of that session, Crisyn realised and had a light bulb moment that he could no longer ignore and brush his cash flow problems under that carpet. He had to take action. And to be fair to Crisyn, and hats off to him, after that session, he did exactly that. He made some drastic changes to the point where he's even sacked his accountant and brought a new accountant in so he could understand the numbers to scale his business. And since doing this, his once flagging aerial business that made him and turned him into a busy fool has now been transformed into a high quality CCTV and security business where he's now getting incredible net profits, but at the same time, he's working less hours than he's ever worked before. So I want to uncover on this episode the exact strategies that Crisyn has taken to skyrocket those net profits by 1,100%. But at the same time, I want him to highlight the mistakes and the challenges and the problems that he had in his business so you don't go down the same route. So without further ado, Crisyn, welcome to the show.
Hi, Craig. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, and thank you for joining us, Crisyn. And I know that you've got some valuable knowledge that you want to share with people, particularly for those that have got cash flow problems or not making the profits that they deserve.
Yes.
So let's just cut straight to it. Why is it so important that trades and construction business owners start to understand the numbers in the business?
Well, when you've gone from just being somebody who's good at their job into actually making into a business, you need to know what your numbers are and you need to be able to relate to them in order to make profit or loss, make any money, save time, enhance your lifestyle and grow your business.
Yeah. And you never used to track your numbers, did you? That's the whole part of this episode. You never used to track them and you got yourself in a bit of a pickle, didn't you?
You did, yes.
And then you track your numbers now, and miraculously, through tracking your numbers and getting laser focused, you've transformed your business, transformed your life, and transformed your profits.
Pretty much.
To give this a little bit more context, let's just rewind and share with you how and where you started off, because this is going to resonate with a lot of sole traders that are growing into limited companies. So take us back to where you started and just share with us some of the services that you were offering on day one.
Okay, so I was fitting aerials and satellites as a sole trader. offering normal services, fit you an aerial, change your satellite dish, and all that seemed to go quite well as a sole trader.
Okay. And this were back when? When were this?
98, I started in the aerial game, and then 2004, I went on my own as a sole trader. One
Okay.
man band and a van.
Okay. So you're a one-man band, a van, fitting aerials, yeah, TVs. So what were some of the challenges that you experienced just in general in running your business when you were back then as a sole trader?
Getting paid. Getting paid and having enough money to buy stock, advertising, um, being able to go on holiday and not worry about monies and where work was coming from, when you get back. So just sort of general running things that change from, when you're working for somebody, you just take for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. And so during this period then, obviously work started to come in for you and you started to grow your business and you're still not tracking your numbers. So as you started to grow your business, what products or services did you move over to? And then did you start to employ staff at this point?
Yeah, we grew a little bit as in the work changed from, Dorothy's bedroom extra TV point. We started branching out more and more into doing commercial works. So bigger blocks of flats, care homes, places like that, which meant obviously we had a higher turnover and eventually led me into being having to change into a limited company and be VAT registered.
Okay. And as you're growing and scaling, then you started to change the products, change the services, getting into commercial sector, taking bigger jobs on. That in itself, especially when you start to bring a team in, that also encounters growing problems and growing pains. So just share with us some of the challenges you were facing as you started to grow into this period.
Yeah, so starting to grow is not as easy as what you think it is. When you're one man and your van, you only got to think about yourself and your vehicle. If you start putting other people on, you got to pay them initially, but then you need your vehicle, your stock, your tools, your insurances, other servicings of the vans or vehicles and tools, training courses, because you have a responsibility to yourself and to other people to develop them, and health and safety. So all these things add up. So when you think, getting a bit busy, I'll just put another van on the road or get other people involved, it ain't quite that simple. And that's where, if you're not on top of your numbers, you can fall over quite quickly.
Yeah. So talk to us about this period then, because as you're scaling and growing, you had a massive negative impact in terms of cash flow, didn't you? Because of a bad debt of somebody who didn't pay you. So just explain this, because I think this is one of the challenges that we all get when we start to grow and scale as business. We think that the more work we have on, the more labour we have working for us, the more vans we have on the road. We think if we start to take more work on, we're growing as business, we're going to make more profit. And we know that that's not the case. So just explain to us what happened to you, because this sort of like transitions over into what I've just been explaining.
Yeah. So again, with having vehicles on, you think you need to take on bigger jobs, but at that point you don't really, unless you've been tracking any numbers and you're aware of what things are costing and your overheads and time on jobs. That can impact you quite badly if you're not prepared for it. I mean, I was paying my guys weekly. The contracts that we were having were supposed to be 30 days, end of month, which sort of rolled over and rolled over. I didn't particularly have any contract as such with the people that we were working for, which was a subcontractor to a subcontractor. So I found myself quite exposed and stuck with the cash flow. How do you pay everybody? How do you pay your stock when, that is a 30 days account? And then also you do have a credit limit as well. So when you haven't got a massive turnover, your credit limit with a supplier isn't that high. So if you're running multiple jobs at multiple times, it's very, very easy to get trapped within that, as we did with the company that we were working for. went bust in between as doing the jobs, and we were 30, 45 days in. Never did get paid, and the ultimate cost to me or to the business was about 60k.
Wow, 60 grand. I mean, that's a massive hit for any business, particularly a small growing outfit and business like you were at that time. So what negative consequences then did that hit have on you, because you weren't tracking your numbers? And more importantly, what mental or psychology or psychological impact did that have on you? Because I know that if I were to lose 60 grand, I'd be having sleepless nights for sure.
Oh, yeah, extremely stressful. And I felt like I'd let everybody down. It was a horrible place to be in at the time, because you still have your family life, you still have to provide for your family. I still had guys to pay, I still had vehicles to pay. We had vehicles on finance. I still had my stock and suppliers to pay. It was dark times.
So what was it then that pulled you through? Because you continued to trade through this, didn't you? You didn't just throw in the towel. You continued to trade through it. So what was it that you pulled on or called on or did to get you through that sticky period, which, what, 2015 was it?
Yeah, 2015, yeah.
So what happened? How did you grind it out? What did you have to do? How did you overcome that cash flow forecast to survive?
Bank loans. I had to go and get a bank loan. I had to approach, luckily I had a fantastic relationship with suppliers at the time, and they obviously can appreciate that I was intending to work through this. So you'd buy an item at its normal stock price and then pay a bit of the bill off, and it took me a little while to get through that. But we managed to, and then also at the same time, I reactivated and went back and into the domestic market, so that we were getting paid straight away at the end of each job.
Yeah,
but it took a while.
So by not tracking the numbers, by thinking you're growing your business, taking more staff on, taking commercial work on, which is always a risk, by not having the right terms and conditions and all this lot in place, someone's took you for 60 grand. It's now put you in the shit. You're now having to take bank loans and borrow money just to tie you over, right? And now it's having a negative effect on your business and on your mindset. And I think a lot of people that will be listening and watching to this episode will be able to understand exactly how you must have been feeling, because I've been there. I've been there, many years ago, where I'm having sleepless nights because I'm constantly worried about money, because I'm not tracking my numbers, and getting to a point where some months you think you're doing well, don't you? Because you look at your bank account and you think you're doing well. And then by the time you've paid out your materials, paid your suppliers, paid your labour, paid your tax, paid your VAT, all that money that were in your bank account automatically disappears, and then you've got jack shit left, and you're thinking, where's it all gone? Where's all the money gone?
And how am I going to pay myself? So out of all of that time, I made sure everybody else was done and paid my suppliers, paid my lads, paid the vans, kept everything rolling over. And I'm thinking, hey, I'm doing all this and I've got to show for it. What's the point in doing this? And you really do consider, just jacking it in and going and getting a job, because it's got to be easier, hasn't it?
Well, it has. And the sad reality is, I do genuinely believe that I would say the majority of trades business owners, by the time you've added up the amount of hours that you work in your business, and I'm not just talking about on tools, I'm talking about going out and doing the surveys, doing all the marketing, doing all the pricing, doing all the quotes, ordering all the materials, all the admin stuff that happens outside that nobody else sees. By the time you add that lot up, and then you divide it by what you're taking out of your business each week or each month, with respect, most people would be better off getting a job working for somebody else and having no stress and no hassle, working 40 hours a week, getting their holidays paid for, having a pension. They'd earn more money doing that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I looked at one point and I'd have been better off stacking shelves at Tesco than what I was doing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So just to put this into some context of size wise, then for us, in terms of turnover and profit margins, net profit margins after tax, back then, as you're coming out of managing this debt, what were your turnover and what would you say your net profit is per year back then?
Well, the best year that we had, we turned over 250,000 and we had a net profit of 10,000.
Right. So that's a fair whack of turnover for 10 grand. It's not a lot, is it? In reality, it's not a lot.
No, that's rubbish. That's after all taxes and everything paid. And again, I'm looking at that thinking, what's the point?
Right. So, as you're at this point now, then, what then transcribed? Because moving towards sort of like 2019, 2020, something shifted in your business, didn't it? And this is where incognito were born. But at the same time, we went into lockdown. So, explain on this journey then, you're coming out of this back end of this debt from this contractor going pop on you. What happened next?
Well, also at that same time, I'd realised that the aerial industry itself is a bit of a dying business. No amount of marketing or money that you could throw at anywhere is gonna generate lots and lots of work to come out of the other side of that. Uh, as aerial, as underneath the aerial services company, we'd also been doing security systems. So I decided that I needed to separate the security stuff from the aerial works, and hence, Incognito Systems was born on the back end of that, just to run all of the security industry stuff. But obviously, I was still trying to make a go of what was my baby, which was aerial services.
Yeah. And then COVID kicked in. So what effect did that have on your businesses, particularly incognito? What happened with that?
God, pandemic couldn't have been timed worse. At that point as well, I just bought a load of equipment to go forward with a contract, and that contract was due to start on the 1st of April, and we went into lockdown on the 23rd of March, I think it was. And obviously, all the emails going backwards and forwards for all of that was non-essential works and non-essential projects. So I ended up at that point sat with thousands of pounds worth of stock ready to go forward to do these completed works, and no actual works to go and do because I had to stay at home.
Yeah. Which I presume, you invested into all that stock that needs paying for. So now your cash flow's taking another battering because you're taking stock for something that you can't fit, but you still got to pay your suppliers, haven't you?
Yeah, that was another interesting time as well. But I mean, I was quite fortunate again in that I've got great relationships with my suppliers, and the contracts that we were due to fit did come through, and it did start. That did start in May, I believe. So I just had a mad month of like literally, what am I going to do? Because it's all just fell apart. But fortunately, we managed to come through that.
So now you're running two sides to your two businesses. You've got the aerial side and you've got incognito. Both of them have took a battering, yeah, financially wise. So what was the trigger as you were coming sort of like out of COVID? What was the trigger that forced you into deciding I'm going to start investing more time and effort into incognito than the aerial side?
Well, you were, Craig, to be fair. During the pandemic and sitting, I'd been a member of your Trades Freedom Club on Facebook for quite a while. And I'd been seeing like some of the inner circle members that like posting their results and, how they were getting on. But one of the people I'll reach out to him here was Neil Conway from Artificial Supergrass. I watched his growth pattern through it, and I watched his entire cycle, and I thought I could relate to virtually every pain point that he was saying at the time that he was going for. Very, very similar, resonated with me, and I followed that path through, and then decided to join the inner circle in 2022, I believe.
Yeah, it were. Yeah, it were. We started in February 2022 is when the program started.
Yeah.
Okay, so you joined my inner circle. We started the coaching in February.
Yes.
So along, and for those people that aren't aware, the inner circle is my 12-month marketing and business coaching program. So along that 12-month, a lot changed in it. We worked on lots of different areas of your business during that period of time. That's all now compounded to get the results of where you are today. But just share with us some of the areas of improvement that we worked on and you went away and implemented into your business. What were they?
Mindset and like not personal, I say personal development, but looking after yourself and was a massive section that we're into. So we did mindset, team, who have you got in your team and people around you, systems, so systems that you needed to place, like job software, accounting software, stock, even as far as like telephone calls and PAs and things. We did marketing and we did finances. The session that really, really changed my life was the cash and finance session, and that was the session that made me really need to appreciate that I needed to understand my numbers a lot better.
Yeah, do you know what? I remember that. I remember the session. I remember the aftermath actually of that session. So on that session, I invited my accountant onto it as well, didn't I?
Yeah.
To come and give some extra help, support, and advice for them that needed it. And sitting through that session, what was it that we actually covered then that sort of like struck a chord with you? What topics and what numbers did we teach you during that cash and finance month that we covered?
Oh, we touched on gross, net, and retained profit, profit and loss. We did balance sheets. We did our break-even figures. We did how to create cash flow forecasts. And at the same time, in with that, realizing or thinking that your break-even figure, what do you need to turn the lights on? Where I was, I didn't particularly understand like the difference between margin and putting a percentage on. So I was instantly losing quite a lot of money in there. And how I was running previously, I didn't actually add in all the things like taxes, insurances, and things. So they were. That was an eye opener for me, a massive one, to make sure that I had all those numbers in line.
Yeah, so we covered all those numbers off and made you realise how important knowing the numbers are in your business. And what I always say to people is you don't have to become an accountant to understand the numbers in your business. But come on, let's face it, if we're in the business of making money, which every business owner is, and I also appreciate that money is not the driver and the be all and end all for everyone, but technically we are running a business, and if we're not making profit, then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
So we don't have to become an accountant. What we do need to understand is the terminology around these numbers, what these numbers mean, and to be able to read the numbers of where we are existing. And then what do we need to do to project the numbers to be moving forward so we can start to increase them profit margins without overpaying on taxes? And for me, Crisyn, it was the accountability session that month, because you went away from that session, as did everybody else, and started working on your business. But when you came onto that accountability session 2 weeks later, I was pleasantly shocked at what you said on that session, on that accountability session, because one, you'd gone away and worked on your numbers, but two, you were like, something's got to drastically change and it's got to change quick. So what was it that you went away and looked at that made you realize, I'm not in a good place, something needs to happen now? What was it?
It, the whole thing between trying to balance the two businesses in there, something had to give. I was just going to take both of my businesses down, and nothing was going to succeed. So I had to let go of the emotional attachment I had, and I had to be Very straightforward. I needed a new accountant instantly, which didn't actually quite work out because I was halfway through my financial year, so we had to make sure that my books were all in order for me to track those results, which I was now aware of. I was able to see, and I'd been able to see that my old or previous accountant hadn't been putting things in the right boxes. I dread to think how much additional tax I'd paid or how many bad decisions I'd actually made based on her presenting me something at the end of the year and me going, yeah, that looks all right, and just signing it off. Knowing what I should be looking for, being able to read my profit and loss, being able to work out what my overheads are properly and being able to account for them was a game changer.
Yeah. And do you know what you've just said then about changing your accountants? And I can say this factually because over all the years I've been running these inner circles, that cash and finance session, I would say the vast majority of members end up sacking their accountants and moving on because their accountants are just not doing the jobs right. In other words, you're just a number, right? You're just another client. And what they do is, in my opinion, what they do is they leave everything till last minute. They land things on you at the last minute. And because we don't understand the numbers and the terminology, yes, every business has heard a gross profit and net profit. Every business owner's heard a profit and loss account, cash flowing. We know these things. We hear of these things, but we don't know them. So what happens is we leave everything till last minute. Your accountant says, right, you need to come in and sign these accounts quick. They've got to be submitted by this date, like next week. You sign accounts off that you haven't got a Scooby-Doo what's in them. You can't read the numbers. You don't know what you're doing. You sign them accounts off, and then the accountant says, oh, you've got a tax bill to pay. And you go, where the fuck's this tax bill come from? Where's the money? I don't even have the money. How comes you've landed this on me at the last minute? And also, while I'm ranting, right?
Yeah.
While I'm ranting, there'll be other people listening to this that are getting late penalties because their accountants haven't sent in their CIS, or they haven't sent in the VAT, or they haven't sent in their tax, self-assessment tax on time. And now you, the business owner, are getting late penalty fees because your accountant's shit and they're not doing the job properly.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly where you were.
Yeah, sorry, just to compound on that one, exactly what you've just said. You get, can you sign off your accounts? Here they are. I'll send it through. You need to do this and post it back. And then they go, oh, by the 7th of May, you need to pay $7 grand, 10 grand. Like, from where? Where is that money?
Exactly. And but it's not the accountant's fault, is it?
No.
If we take ownership and accountability and responsibility for our own business, we trust in an accountant thinking they're the holy grail and they're gonna be part of our team and help us to grow as business. But in reality, most of them aren't. You're just another number and another client. So this is another reason why it's so important that we have to understand the numbers. We have to take responsibility. So when we're signing them accounts off, we know the exact position that we're in. And more importantly, we're not overpaying on taxes.
Yeah.
Because I believe most trades, men and women, are overpaying on taxes because their accountants aren't advising them on tax.
And also things that go into different categories that you wouldn't quite work out, and what things that you think you can claim for, workwear, office stationery, and bits and bobs that you think you can do. Unless you're logoed like that, then you can't claim for your work uniform. It's not a uniform; it's just an item of clothing. It's quite an eye opener when you get. My new accountant saved me $4 grand in the first quarter of through putting things into the right categories where they were meant to go. Now, to me, that's just outweighed any of what her monthly fees would be, any of what their team would be, because she's just literally actively showed me where the savings come from. So £4,000 in a quarter over just through putting things in the right category is a massive thing. Before, I was paying the tax on that and the VAT.
Yeah, yeah. So we've gone through it in a circle. We've had that accountability session. You come on and say, I need to do things quick. I've introduced you to my accountant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So beyond that point, what is it that you and my accountant went away and did? Because whatever you did has made a massive, massive positive effect on the numbers in your business. So just share with us what the journey consists of. What did you do? What did you start working on? And what do you do on a monthly or quarterly basis with her now to make sure that these numbers aren't running away with you and you're in control of your own finances?
Yeah, we went immediately straight back to basics. We started off with, obviously, you do your incomings and your outgoings. One of the things that did really, really help is just to shut all direct debits, shut down all standing orders, shut down absolutely everything, and then see what is important to you. Because you'll find you've got subscriptions going back to some old website or search engine or something going back years. When those things come back in, you need to work out what's important to you. So one of the biggest things that we did was lower our overheads by getting rid of stuff that was just there that you didn't particularly take notice of. That was quite an eye-opener because there's quite a lot. You'd be surprised. That's well worth doing. So we stripped it right back down to basics and we started building. We have meetings to understand what the numbers were, where we needed to be, what things actually cost, what margins we needed to put on top of that. And I mean by margins, not just by percentages. What margin does that need to be able to come in, open the doors and to operate? But more importantly, if another pandemic was to kick in, have you got reserves for that? So in order to build those up, I needed to understand what my revenue was, sort of the jobs that we're completing, the average job value, our first time fixed rate, as opposed to going back. So when we're out on a job and completing works, are we accounting for any possible secondary visits, telephone support, admin support, things like that, which will take a big chunk off your top line if you're not looking out for them.
Yeah. And just listening to you now, all these things that you're rattling off and, not taking off your top line. That is what I would expect a business owner's level of knowledge to be when it comes to cash and finance. If they don't want to wing it and they want to start building and growing and scaling a business that's going to take care of themselves and the family, which is exactly now what you've achieved, isn't it? That's where you are now. So you've gone through this new educational process and you've got to grips with all these numbers. You've now got an accountant that's on your side that you're now working with all the time. You're now making more profit than you've ever made before. Yeah. You're now paying less tax than you've ever made before. So what are some of the results? What are some of the wins? What are some of the benefits to Incognito and you personally now you've got on top side of these numbers?
Well, my team can run itself. So I've got a great team around me. I've got my admin team. I've got an heir apparent or my colleague who can run things if I'm not here. I can choose. I like to go on the tools as well now, so I can choose what I'm doing with my time. For me personally, the back end of all of this as well is I'm starting to be able to put things in place for me, via the company. So pensions, life insurances, things like that are all a benefit, and everybody should have in order to grow. My company's in a good place. We have retained profits. We've got different accounts for every day-to-day things. We've got VAT and tax accounts, and we've got a rainy day account. So if the pandemic was to kick in now, again, yes, it would be a pain, but we'd be able to weather that and still come out the other side.
Yeah. So your business now, would you say your business is in a financial stable situation or position? And is it in a better position now than it's ever been?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so let's talk a few numbers then, just to put this into context with the Crisyn. So you said originally, on average, when you were the aerial company, you're saying that your best year you were turning over 250 grand with a net profit after tax of 10 grand. Not a lot, not a great deal.
Yeah.
So now you've put all this in place and now you've restructured your business and you're acting as a business owner, not a tradesman. What are these numbers now starting to look like as of where you are right now?
Okay, so turnover 500k and profit of 120k.
So now your net profit after tax is standing at £125,000, yeah?
Yeah.
So when we look at the 10 grand that you were earning or making net profit after tax, when you were the aerial company, when you didn't know the numbers, you were 10 grand net profit. Now you're 125 grand net profit. So that's an increase of 1,100%. 1,100% increase in your net profit over what? Since you started in a circle, couple of years? If
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So what's the benefit to you as a family then? Because what is this extra cash, extra lack of stress? I know you're working nowhere near as many hours as you used to work. So what has all this actually provided for you? Because I talk about time and financial freedom. You're working towards your financial freedom. But what about time? What has this now given you?
Oh, the time difference is huge. Even the time and what I can do with that time, it's the quality of the time. So, kids' assemblies, I do school runs most mornings now with my little one. But the time that we're standing there, instead of being stressed when you're with your children or with your family and you're constantly looking at your phone and you're constantly wondering what's going on, your mind isn't there. So, the financial side of it weighs so heavily on your peace of mind and your mindset and your well-being, because that time is now quality time. I'm not stressed, I'm not running around, I can sit, I can relax, I haven't got to worry about anything. I'm not worrying about who's answering the phone, I'm not worrying about whether my jobs are being done, I'm not worrying about whether I've got enough money to pay myself, whether I've got enough money to pay the lads, whether where that tax bill is going to be covered from. So the time that I can spend with my family and like obviously working less hours as well is of a different level of quality to what I was able to do before.
Yeah, yeah. And on top of that, it's not just the financial side that you've benefited from what you've learned on Inner Circle, is it? Because there's other areas of your business that you've now invested into and that have now improved, and that ultimately all have a compound effect and a knock-on effect on your profit margins. So what other areas of your business have you now smartened up and improved on?
Clients. Going back to, everybody's all about like, we've got to get this working, we've got to get this working. Your biggest and most viable people that you've got are people that you've already worked for, services that you already offer. They know you already know them. So we went heavily into revisiting our client database and trying to work better with them. What can we do for them? So some of the clients that we've got are quite surprising where the level of work's come from. You've done work at someone's house, but you weren't to know that they were managing director of a giant company that you might start doing one job here and one job there for. Those sort of things have made a big difference for us. We've also, in with that, revisiting our customer database and working better on client relationships. We just invested in a new website and all marketing and everything moving forward, which has made a big difference as well.
Yep. And talk to us about team as well, because with the team side of it, you made a significant change to your team and you brought somebody in to help look after. Well, you share it with us. Who did you bring in and what benefits has this person had on freeing up your time?
Administration assistants. Vicky, our admin assistant, has been a another, I say game changer, it's getting a bit of a loose term, that, isn't it? But it's made a big difference to us. I used to think that having an administrative member of staff was just a drain on your resource. They just, they don't pay for themselves. It's like having a unit or something. How does that pay for itself? It's just a place to store things. But by taking some of the workload away from me and helping me implement the systems to do the reporting, as well as obviously general day-to-day stuff, has made such a big difference. And I would, if you can find the right member of team to slot in as an administrative assistant, does make a big difference.
Yeah. And again, factored into the overheads as an overhead contribution and factored into the cash flow forecast, we can start to work out when is the best time to take a new member of staff on, because it's an increased overhead. There's certain things that people may need if they're bringing in an admin person who's not freelance, because Vicky works in your offices with you, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So it may well be that, well, if I take on more staff, more admin staff, and I want them in-house, all of a sudden now I'm going to have to go out and get officers. So then rents and rates are starting to go up. Gas and electric start to go up. They're going to want equipment, so they're going to need a laptop, a Mac, or printers, or whatever. So these overheads are going up as you employ staff, but the numbers at the other end will tell you if it's worth employing them and when to employ them, because you're cash flowing it out. Yeah.
Yeah. But then also in the same thing, that outlay that you're doing for people has enabled both myself and my colleague Andy to concentrate on the things that we're actually good at. So I'm the most expensive administrator in my business. I don't want to be doing that. Andy, my other colleague, he's basically my technical manager. He should be out fixing things. He should be making sure that my software is running properly in the background. If we're both sitting here doing administrative tasks, then we're still not pushing the other side of the business. But I could see whether that was working. I could literally see on our cash flow forecasting, and by watching the numbers, what effect having the additional administrative member was making. And that was when I realised that what a benefit that was.
Yeah, massive. And let's not forget as well that when you're bringing in a new team, and that doesn't matter whether it's another engineer or an admin person, your team have to work to systems, don't they? Because if we don't put the right systems in place, you can't delegate that task or that role to someone because the systems aren't there, because everything's in your head. So talk to us about what transpired with putting systems in place, because since Inner Circle or during Inner Circle and after, you've systemized your business, you've put them systems in place, and now Vicky's picking up on them systems, freeing up your time. So talk to us about the importance of systems.
Systems, procedures, and rules of the game. So now I have a core team that are directly employed that are incognito systems. We do use subcontractors, but they have to work to my rules of the game. We use ServiceMate as software, which we can tailor down to different administrative levels. So the contractors that we work for, literally, they're going out. Obviously, they know in advance because things are scheduled. We're scheduled now. I'm just looking at my calendar. We've got work scheduled now to September, October. And given the fact we might move them around a little bit, so do my subcontractors know, unless something comes in quickly in between. So they know they have subcontractor access to to our CRM, to ServiceMate. And they have to literally complete each section at a time before they can move on to another section within the job. Obviously, the other benefit of using it that way around is if they don't do that section and they get it right, then, I'm not going to pay them for not doing the job properly. Whereas before, with people that I was employing, they could go out, and we were a bit loose. We didn't have procedures or systems in place to check this. We ended up making repeat visits. We were making, to go and see what was wrong. Now everything is checklisted. We've got photographic evidence. We've got a full history on what's happening at each client, and equipment that we've used and time that we've spent.
Yeah. And again, absolutely fundamental for a growing business that you put the right systems in place, ideally before you start taking staff on. And again, that's another part of how we can scale, because the systems are in place. We bring the right team in to run the systems. You start to take a backward step. You start to get your time back to reinvest back into other areas of your business, which is what you've been doing.
Yeah.
Now, talking about time, how many holidays did you have? How many holidays have you had in last sort of like year? Because I know you've been away a fair few times now, haven't you? You're like Judith Chalmers. Just one day.
Yeah, 4.
So talk to us about that then.
Okay, so yes, I mean obviously we did have holidays before, but over the last year, I've managed to have four holidays abroad, and then the odd weekend here and there as well.
Yeah. And would you have been able to have that level of time off before you'd put the systems in place and got the right team in? And even if you did have that time off and you went on holiday, could you have switched off? Switched off.
No, that was the other thing. If we did go away anywhere in previous years and previous times, I'd be like on my phone, what's going on, or I need to answer this, need to that. Can't sit and relax. That's not relaxing. And you look around and your kid wants to play or jump in the pool, or the missus wants to go and look at some shop or a cathedral or something like that, but you've got your head buried in it. You may as well be at work. It's not a break. Last holiday that we went on to, I think I responded to one of the emails, and basically I got a bollocking from work and told just to switch everything off, go away, we've got this in hand. So my team are controlling and helping me run, and even though I'm not there, priceless.
Yeah. Amazing. So now, by investing into all these different areas of your business, i.e. mindset, time management, systems, procedures, cash and finance, new team, marketing with your new website. By investing into this, you've put the foundations into your business for you to be able to grow it and scale it. You're making the money, you're getting the time back. So my question is, what's next for Crisyn and what's next for Incognito?
That's a good question. This morning we had news from one of my clients that have got an additional 40 sites that are coming on board that need to be done. So we're going through the process of making sure that will happen. They are pretty much tied up, so that means that I'm quite secure with what work's coming in. I'm starting to look at employing new staff members to bring in to help me manage that workload, and to be part of the team and to help grow the business. But it also means for me that by having these systems in place, it's not massively stressful. I'll be able to see what results and where people are going and where we're going, both financially and as a company, because I need to make sure that wherever we go, it still operates with the ethos that we've just instilled over the last couple of years.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, what an absolute transformation. What a transformation. And, I love it. I love seeing this, particularly from inner circle members. Let's be honest, particularly from inner circle members. I love seeing that transformation that you've gone through. But do you know what? You absolutely deserve it. Because my saying, when you're prepared to go deep and you're prepared to do things that other people aren't prepared to do, then you get results that other people aren't prepared to do. And that's exactly what you've done. So, final question. No, two questions. Final two questions. Number one, if you had to recommend some certain or specific business advice and become, let's say, a mentor to other people, and anybody else was at a position where you were, everything's a bit hard work and they're not making money and they haven't got their head space right and marketing's not working, no systems, employed a shit team that's costing them time and money, all that jazz. If you could give them a piece of advice to take away and go and implement today, what would it be?
It would be to not to panic, to stop, just to stop. Have a look at where everything is. Look where you are. Look where you've been. Make sure that if you're going to move forward, that you're comfortable with yourself. Don't put yourself down. Everybody's been there. You don't know what you don't know. one of the things that I've learned is I'm always looking for what is the quickest, easiest, most risk-free way to make money. And also, nobody's going to judge you. You make these decisions. There's no wrong or right. But if you haven't got the knowledge to move forward or to cope with where you are at the moment, just stop and you go and get it. Reach out, come and talk to me. I'm open. You can come and talk to me, talk to Craig, talk to anybody within the Trades Freedom Club, and anybody would be happy to help and advise. But reach out. Don't sit there and let it fester in your head. That'd be my advice.
Yeah, great advice. Brilliant. And Crisyn, I'm sure there's people watching this and listening to it that are going to be thinking, do you know what? If I could just sort of like maybe speak or get some advice off Crisyn in a bit more depth, what would be the best way of being able to reach out and contact you?
Okay, so you can email me, you can message me if we're on Facebook or WhatsApp, then my details are just appearing on the screen. So I'll be more than happy to speak to you anyway. I have spoke to a few people within Trades Freedom Club that have reached out to me. So if anybody wants to talk to me, just phone me, message me, email me, and I'll respond.
Amazing. Well, listen, Crisyn, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your own journey. I'm sure that'll have inspired many people and hopefully given a few a kick up the arse that they needed or they need to get to grips, particularly with the numbers. But massive thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Yeah. And let's keep this momentum going that you've got, because I know that I'll be meeting you at the top.
Perfect. Look forward to seeing you up there, mate, with your summit flag.
Thanks for joining me. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Take care, mate. Cheers.
Well, if anybody needed a reminder about the importance of understanding and knowing your numbers in your business, surely this episode has got to be that. Crisyn's come a long, long way from being that one-man band aerial guy making all them classic mistakes to where he is today. But to get to where he is, he's had to learn the knowledge. He's had to get off his backside and do things that other people aren't prepared to do. So I don't want you to make the same classic mistakes that Crisyn made and what I've made over them years. So your action task from today's episode is get a meeting lined up with your accountant and ask your accountant to bring your accounts up to date and sit down with you so you can understand exactly what's happening in your business. And if your accountant is not prepared to do that with you, then I will be questioning, are they the right team member to help you to grow and scale your business? When Crisyn did it with his, the answer to that was no, and he went and found a new accountant. Now that new accountant's part of his team, they track the numbers, they're making profit, as you've heard, and they're not overpaying on taxes. And that's exactly where you need to be. If you feel as though you need the knowledge, the coaching and the accountability to reach your full potential, please consider clicking the link in the description and show notes and heading over to discover more about you applying and joining my Inner Circle marketing and business coaching program. So, thank you for joining me on this episode. I'll see you on next week's, and remember, the results that you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. I'll see you at the top.